Hi, it's John from Crafts by John UK. Today I'm going to show you how to do this edge blending using distress ink and one of these little bristle brushes. They're slightly different than the old foam brushes or foam pads that we're used to, but I'm going to show you how to achieve a really nice subtle blend here of colours. You can see how nice the gradient is there all the way around that just ties a project together. This starts off looking like this, so it's a very, very harsh contrast between obviously the white of this cardstock and this coloured background that I've sprayed with distress oxides. But by using that brush, by using that colour, kind of tied the two colours in, made that contrast slightly less so that it feels more a singular project. If you're interested in how to achieve this, stay tuned. So I'm going to show you how to use distress inks and one of these brushes. They're a little bit different than the old spongy ones we're all used to. They've got bristles like a proper brush, very, very fine, but you can get a really nice blend with them. So I'm going to show you how I do it. I've got this little panel here that I've created. It's from an All and Create stamp set called well, I don't know if the stamp set's called It's Christmas. I think it's called Brum Brum. But it's basically this car loaded up with presents and a Christmas tree on the top. I've coloured it, obviously stamped it, embossed it, and then I've coloured it following pretty much the same guidelines. And I think you'll agree it's quite a nice looking feature. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to mount this onto this background that I've created. Actually, I'll just zoom out a little bit because I'm a bit tight. There we go. So I've created this background with some distress inks, which I've sprayed. I've then stamped using some of the kind of border stamps that come with the set. This panel will sit on top of this panel, and that will be my card. I'll then edge it with black and mount it onto a card blank. But the issue I've got is that this is on a very white card. This background is kind of creamy, and I need to just soften the edges between the two. So I'm going to use some vintage photo distress ink and my brush to do that. And I'll show you how you do it. Basically, open up your ink, and what you do, you literally take a little bit of ink, and I always tap off first. You'll see it's left some residue on my desk, but what you then do is you start off the project. So you don't start blending with it on the project, you start off. I've got a little scrap piece here, and I'm going to start off the project very, very gently in circular motions. Now think about the way you're going in relation to your cardstock, because the worst thing you could possibly do is bend an edge and create a fold. So think about the way you're moving. A lot of people, and again, mop up the ink on your mat. A lot of people move away from the center of the project because that's a natural way of doing it so that you don't get any creases in your cardstock or paper, whatever it is you're blending on. Once you've taken most of the ink off, you can then be a bit bolder, go a bit further onto the project because now the ink is a little bit thinner and it won't create any kind of hard edge. There we go. So you can see that's our first edge. It's just brown with a nice, really nice soft gradient onto the cardstock. This is just a piece of scrap paper. This is where I was actually working out my colours. So I'm just using that on top of my project to make sure I don't get any dirty finger marks. So I'm now going to do the same thing again. Tap it on, tap it off slightly, and then circular motions all the way down. You don't want to start too hard. I'm applying barely any pressure here. Don't start too hard. You can always add. It's very, very difficult to take away. So just work your way down the project. Obviously mop up the ink from your mat as you go, and maybe change directions as well. So I sometimes go clockwise and then anti-clockwise, or vice versa. Doesn't really matter. Be careful on the edges, because on the corners, sorry, because that's where you can bend paper. And once you've kind of been down and you've taken the ink off, you can be a little bit bolder in terms of big strokes. Again, turn the project, tap off. Be careful how much ink you've got, because sometimes you can overload. But again, start really low, really slowly, very lightly, no pressure at all. Just work your way along. And you'll find once you've also got a layer of ink on there, you'll find the next layer goes on easier. So just work your way along. Set a simple circular motion with barely any pressure. On the corners, I always give them a little bit more because you want it usually darker on the corners. And then on our final edge now, tap off again, really light pressure. keep that pressure even, so you're not pressing hard at any point in the circle. And just keep going. You'll find that naturally your brush, the bristles of your brush, they get then kind of almost saturated with ink, so you kind of need less and less really. But it depends, you know, how much you're trying to achieve in terms of darkness or blend. Pay attention to the corners, and then at the end I usually kind of go along just to give it a little bit of a boost. There we go. So you can see I've now got a slightly darkened edge. Look at it and obviously check the balance. You can sometimes sort of go in a bit more with some places where you've got maybe a bit more of an open space. But you can see now in literally 5 minutes I've added that brown to the edge, which now just makes that look so much nicer rather than the very, very stark kind of white edge. So that's a simple trick, kind of ties one layer into another on your card. If you wanted to, you could even put a really small border underneath and then the base and then another border. The two borders would tie together. That would look really nice. Obviously you're using a hell of a lot of card then, and you'd have to think about card weights for postage, etc. Hopefully you found that useful. If you want to achieve a technique like this, obviously follow the way I've done it, and also maybe check out my channel, because there are other technique videos on there showing you how to create all different things, from splatty black backgrounds to how to colour, all sorts of different things, the use of negative space, ripping techniques, all sorts of stuff. But I'm a simple card maker, and I'm happy to share what I've found along the way. So if you've enjoyed this video, please maybe like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be posting future content. Thanks a lot, and I'll catch you soon.